Greetings to those that clicked on this video. In this video, I'm going to review Nevernes To Everness's second closed beta test. So throughout the course of this video, I'm going to discuss the story, the characters, the combat, the exploration, the driving, the music, the animation, and the visuals, the artifact system, and finally the pull system of how you achieve the characters, because this is a gacha game after all. So in each section for this video, for example like the combat section, the story section, I am going to include the positives and the negatives for each section so we can move along at a steady pace. So before we get into this first segment, I'm going to provide timestamps in the description of where you want to skip around if you want to. I will put them for the story, the characters, the combat, the exploration, the driving, the music, the visuals, the artifact system, and the pull system, so that way you can skip around to the parts you want to hear about. Okay, now that we got the intro out of the way for this video, the first point for the review is going to be the story. There are 5 missions total, counting the intro. Each one is about 2 to 4 hours long, maybe a little bit longer depending on how long you take or if you fail the boss fights, but they're self-contained stories that are about 2 to 4 hours, and I think they are very good because they don't take themselves seriously at all. It's full of goofy moments that you're having fun in the story, and your main character is so out of place because obviously it's a gacha game where the main character is not going to remember anything and have amnesia. That's just how gacha games are at this point. There are a few side missions that I have not done yet at this point, but I'm probably not going to do because I don't think any other main story content is coming. But throughout the story, you meet a cast of characters, you meet multiple groups. I like all the groups. They're all different with each their own personalities, and I think it's a very good story for this gacha game. There are 5 missions currently available in NTE right now in its closed beta test, and it is the intro, the movie studio commission, the missing person commission, the one I'm going to call Tagiato gets cucked by Adler, and then the final mission is the antique commission, where you have to retrieve an antique in a betting store. So now that we're pretty much at the end of the story section, I'm just going to give a brief rundown. There are 5 missions, including the intro. They're each contained to about 2 to 4 hours of story content, which is very nice. They don't drag on like other gacha games. It does not take itself seriously whatsoever. And honestly, I'm excited to see the story. I think it's got a very good chance of being good if it continues to not take itself seriously and just has fun pretty much going wherever it wants to with the story. Now for this next section, we are going to talk about the characters that are playable and how they feel when they are played. And really, we're just going to list them all right now. The first character is Hathor, Bai Kang, Edgar, Zero the MC, Skia, Adler, Fadia, Lacrimosa, Nanali, Sakiri, Mint, and Hattori. Those are all of the playable characters as of right now with the beta right now. So my only issue really for the characters is that a lot of them feel the same to play. A lot of the base 5 stars, they kind of just use the same attack animations, just slightly varied. And I think it's a bit of a problem that I hope they'll fix in the full game. Give each character more unique attack animations, and I'm mainly talking about the ones that use their fists, like Hathor and Skia. Their animations are very similar, but their alts aren't. Their alts are completely unique, but their main attack animations are just very similar, and it's clear that they weren't really inspired for the attack animations of some of the basic 5-star limited characters and the 4-star. No, not 5-star limited characters. The standard 5 stars and the standard 4 stars. It's a little bit annoying, but it's not that big of a problem. But I think they'll fix in the future. So there is one more problem that we're gonna actually go into detail about later, and that is regarding Nanali and her E ability. So for the third section of this video, we are going to talk about the combat, and I have very mixed feelings on the combat for NTE CBT2. Now, the combat is very clearly inspired by Wuthering Waves. But that's all it is for Wuthering Waves. It's just inspired. They really didn't do the parrying or the dodging that well, because the perfect dodge system is very inconsistent. You will be missing dodges a lot because the sound and the actual animations are not very well timed. The sound to dodge oftentimes goes off seconds before the actual point where you're going to need to dodge. So you'll be fighting an enemy, and from behind you'll hear the dodge sound, and you'll dodge, and you won't get hit by anything. And then a second or two later, then the attack comes from behind you, and you won't be able to see it because the timing is so off for the dodge. It is very annoying. They need to actually time the sound for the perfect dodge with the actual attack animation so you can actually dodge it, because a lot of times you are going to be fighting something and something will be behind you and they will be attacking you, and you won't be able to see the attack animation. You'll be forced to turn around to be able to properly do a perfect dodge. But then when you do that, you get attacked from the previous angle where you were looking at, because guess what? You can't see the attack animation. All you can hear is that damn dodge noise. It needs a better timing. It is such an annoying issue with the combat in NTE. So the second part of the combat is the parrying. And the parrying is obviously inspired by Wuthering Waves, but that's just about it. They did not put any of the effort in to make it actually work, because more than half the time you're going to be missing the parries because your character is just attacking in a random direction, and half the time the parries don't ever line up, and you'll be halfway across the map when an enemy parries because you'll have to do a dodge which sends you flying 20 feet back, and then the enemy will immediately do an attack where you can parry it, but you'll be too far to parry and you just swing and miss, causing yourself to probably get hit because it is an attack with very far range. It is a severe issue because they didn't put any of the effort in, unlike Kuro Games did when they developed the combat system for Wuthering Waves and its perfect parrying system. So after describing the issues with the combat about the perfect parrying and the perfect dodging, you can understand why the combat is actually really not the greatest, because the dodging and the parrying just is so bad. It really ruins the combat because it makes up a lot of it, because there's no healer. I have not seen an actual healer for the game. Hattori can heal, but it's just a single ability that heals a very minor amount of health. So it's like you're forced to dodge and parry, but the systems for it are just so half-baked that combat just ends up sucking complete ass. It's a problem, and I hope they fix it in the future release date or whenever the game's going to be coming out. Because as of right now, if they do another closed beta test, it's probably going to be the same problem, where you're just going to keep getting hit even though there is a dodge system, but the dodge system is just half-baked. The parrying system's half-baked. You're usually going to miss, or you're not going to get hit by it regardless because the timing is off. It's just the combat is just so half-baked. Now, for the combat, there are 6 or 7 combat specialties that you can mix and match characters with and their elements. You can see a little wheel when you're looking at the characters or selecting teams in the bottom right that shows you how to achieve each one and what they each do. I went over this in my previous video about the combat, but it's a little bit like Genshin Impact's color matching thing. It's very clearly inspired by it, and I'm overall not really a big fan of that, because if you do not match them, the characters do feel significantly worse to play, so you're kind of forced to match them according to their specialties and elements. It's a bit forced, and it's overall not a very good thing. I do wish they would not rely on it so hard. Now that I got the combat talking points out of my system, we are going to move on to the next point, and that is the exploration and the driving. Now, for this section about the exploration and driving, I'm going to say just a few things. If you're driving on a mouse and keyboard, don't. Use a controller. It's much better. The mouse and keyboard controls for driving are so sensitive that you'll tap left or right to turn, and you'll just do a full 90-degree turn and just slam into something and lose all your speed. It's the same thing for drifting, but that's not an issue you can fix with controller. When you drift, you just do a slight turn and lose all your speed. So, yeah, it's not the greatest. So if you're planning on driving around in the map, which you are going to be forced to, because of the fact there are very few fast travel points, use a controller. It makes driving all that much better. Now, this is the part where I'm going to have to bring up Nanally for the exploration. So, when you want to climb up walls and go up the buildings, you have to do the regular slow-ass climbing like in Genshin Impact, because they did not include wall running. But if you select your 5-star selector for the standard banner and you pick Nanally, she has an ability which allows you to run up walls for about 8 seconds. It's dumb. It is a exploration feature locked behind a character that you are forced to get in the standard release, because I don't see them fixing that or changing that. So, if you want to be able to explore faster, well, relatively faster, because Nanally's ability lasts about 8 seconds because it takes so long to get out of the beginning animation for it, you are going to be forced to use the standard 5-star selector that they gave you to get Nanally so you can wall run. It is annoying because of the fact that you are climbing so slow. I mean, you can spam jump. Your character, when you spam jump, he kind of runs up for like half a second and then starts climbing. It's a little bit faster than just regular climbing, but as I said, if you get Nanally, you can just use her, and then you can wall run up stuff with her E ability. Isn't that great? An exploration feature locked behind a character that you have to get, because she is a 5-star after all, so you will have to get her from the standard 5-star banner. Now, when you're exploring through the city, you are going to find how barren it is. Sure, you can climb to the top of buildings and look around, but really that's all there is besides the occasional boss that you can find. But the problem is, the map is just empty. There's really not much to do. All of the buildings kind of look the same. I mean, yeah, there are a lot of random shops that you can find, but those shops are for owning the businesses that you can get supplies to run your businesses and have a passive income. But the exploration is not that great. There's really nothing to explore. You can find these little shadow crow things that will increase your level with this lady that you can talk to, but really that's it besides finding a few chests. It's very bad. Exploring is not that good, because if you want to explore, you are forced to drive around, and with how bad the driving controls are, it just sucks to explore. Now that I talked about the driving and the exploration, we are going to move on to the music and the visuals. So, for the music, a lot of it is very hit or miss. There are a few good tracks, but you cannot find them on YouTube to give them another listen to. You have to stumble on them by chance when you're driving, or you go into the correct dungeon. Now, more often than not, the music really isn't going to hit as good as some of the other tracks do. And that is unfortunate, because there are a few good tracks, but as I said, you really can't find them on YouTube. When I tried finding them, I couldn't find anything other than the trailer music, and that is very unfortunate. In about 70% of the dungeons, you will have to listen to music that's just like, why is this here? It's really not that good. It's just noise, and it would probably be better off silent or just using a different song. There are only really a few dungeons that actually have very good music, and honestly, it's just very disappointing you can't find them on YouTube to listen to or whatever. For the visuals, I'm also going to talk about the animations of the characters and cutscenes. It is all very, very good. The visuals and the animations, you will see characters pull off faces and do things you've only really seen in like anime. And it's a breath of fresh air to see, because usually in other gacha games they just stand there with a basic face and they just talk with a flat face. But no, most of the time, all these characters will have unique faces that they're doing related to the cutscene, like stars in the eyes, they'll have thought bubbles going over their head. They'll just have these little extra things that make every animation and facial detail just unique to this game that's not seen in other gacha games. And it is overall a very good thing to see in this. So, for this section of the video, it is going to be only positives. So, we are going to talk about the artifact system and the polling system. For the artifact system, it is the best system I have seen in any gacha game that I have played. It clears them all. When you are farming for artifacts, or whatever you want to call it in this game, you will see the 4 substats immediately. You don't have to level it up if you don't like it, because they come with set substats. And it is perfect the way that is. So when you find the one you want and it has the perfect roll you want, you can just level it up and get those crit stats. But this is still a positive. The way you get set bonuses is there's this mini game that you spend coins on that you get from farming artifacts. These give you this Tetris game mode thing that unlocks the artifact set bonuses. You will have to put them in the thing in the correct order to get the set bonuses. Now, it is the same thing as the base artifact. You will see the base 4 substats on it immediately. You don't have to level it up and play a guessing game. It is the best artifact system in any gacha game, and I hope other gacha games coming out will use this as an example of how to do an artifact system. It is the best, and I cannot give them enough praise for how well it is. It is so nice not being able to do, oh, am I gonna get crit rate and crit damage on this? Oh no, you got 2 defense and HP and attack. Guess what? I have to go waste more XP materials to level up another artifact to see if I get a good roll. Nope, you don't have to do that. You get to see the substats right away on the artifact when you get it. It is fantastic. Now, for the polling system, it is a 90 pity max with a 70 starting pity, I think. Don't quote me on that. I might be a little bit wrong on that, but I am willing to take a higher max pity for a no 50-50, which is what this system is. For the first copy of the limited character, it is a guaranteed, I think. I don't know if it's guaranteed for all copies, but I do know it's guaranteed for the first copy, which is fantastic. I hope other gacha games in the future will follow this system. It is great the way it is. It is so free to play friendly that allows you to get a limited character, their first copy. It helps with the fear of missing out, to where you won't experience that as much when you're pulling for a character, because you won't be like, oh shit, I'm gonna lose a 50-50 on this, and you won't be one of those people that lose like 5 consecutive back-to-back 50-50s. I feel for those people, but it is a fantastic system that I hope other gacha games take note of and copy. Now, for this final section, we are going to talk about the bugs and the problems inside NTE. There are a few bugs, like for example, when I was trying to get ascension materials for the weapon and characters, a lot of the times, I would be locked out of getting the rewards because the thing would just not give me the prompt no matter what angle I would do, so I would either have to restart it or just not do that damn dungeon until they fixed it. Eventually they did fix it after a couple days, but it was still extremely annoying. Another bug was the fact that enemies would not spawn when you would enter a dungeon sometimes. You would just be sitting there with nothing, and then you would have to Alt F4 the game because the close option was not there for some reason. That was a problem that happened several times off stream. I was getting annoyed at that point. Another problem is the performance. Anywhere you go, even in the interior of buildings, your FPS is going to tank. It is a very demanding game, it seems like, and it makes me worried for people that have lower end systems because they might not be able to handle this game, because I think this game has a lot of potential, but their performance is so bad, and it gets even worse while driving. It is so bad, in fact, you have to lower most of the settings for when you're driving, and when you do that, you don't get to see all the civilians and people driving around at low settings. And it just makes the map more empty because you're having so severe performance issues. You have to turn down the settings to even get a decent FPS, but then you're screwed out of seeing all the NPCs and drivers. It's ridiculous. Another problem is the FOV. I could not find a FOV slider. When you would zoom out with your mouse wheel, it would automatically reset you at the closest FOV. And when you would fight enemies or bosses, you would get screwed over so hard because of that damn narrowness that you're forced to see, because you cannot change the FOV whatsoever. As I said earlier, in combat, you would not be able to see enemies from behind, and you would not be able to properly dodge them or parry them. And when you're walking around, it automatically changes your FOV back to the super zoomed in version. And when you would move your camera and you would stop, like take your hand off your mouse or just not move, it would immediately reset your camera to flat looking at your character's back and super zoomed in. They need to add an FOV slider. It is very annoying, and it's an issue that screwed me over multiple times while in combat, because it reset my camera, my FOV would be too narrow, I'd get hit in the back, and I'd lose a fight because of it. It is a problem that I hope they fix in future releases. Another bug that I was constantly experiencing was in dialogue or cutscenes. My HUD would just randomly appear, and you cannot do anything to get rid of it. It would just appear and just not go away. It was very annoying. It happened multiple times. I think they fixed it because it hasn't happened to me in a hot minute, but it was a bit of a problem for the first couple days of the release. It's just, I'm glad that they fixed it if they did, but if it continues in the future beta tests, if they have any, or in the full release of the game, I'm going to be a little annoyed about that, because I've seen a bug report about it, but that is a bug where your HUD would appear. It is annoying because it takes the immersion out of the cutscenes and the dialogue. Now, one more bug that might happen randomly is you falling through the map and falling indefinitely. You will fall for an infinite amount of time, where you will be forced to either fast travel to an area or just Alt F4 the game. And it happened once to me, but I have seen clips of it happening to other people, and that is an issue I hope they fix. What I think causes it is you will either have to Alt F4 from a dungeon because the ads don't spawn in, and then you will spawn back into the game and you reload it, and you'll just teleport through the ground and start falling. I hope they fix that. It's not that annoying because it only happened one time, but it sucks to see that. Now, for this end part of the video, I'm just going to reiterate my points. The story is great. The missions are not too long. They're not a yap fest. It's fun to see it because they don't take itself seriously. The characters are very nicely designed. They're all very unique from each other, but they're not very unique from each other in the combat. The driving is not the greatest unless you use a controller. The exploration is very mid because of the fact you're forced to climb, and an exploration quality of life feature is locked behind a character. The artifact and pulse system is fantastic. I love it. It is one of the best systems in the game for pulling, and the artifact system is the best artifact system I have seen in any gacha game. There are a fair bit of bugs that I hope to see fixed in the next beta test. The performance is abysmal. You are forced to play at low graphics to get a stable FPS. And really, that's about it. My end thoughts are, NTE has a very big potential, and that is only if the devs utilize it. This game could be very good. I think it very well could be a very great gacha game that can stand among the titans of the gacha game series, like all the Hoyoverse games, Wuthering Waves, and games like that. But otherwise, there are a fair bit of issues in this game that I hope that are fixed and that improve. But otherwise, if you made it this far, thank you for watching. I greatly appreciate it. I'm going to keep trying to make my videos better. If you liked the video, please like and subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. And I'll see all of you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching.